Hi, I'm Brenda Walsh. I attend both services, the traditional and the contemporary. And I have been here at home in this church for about 8 years. I go to both services for a very specific purpose, and that's because I get to sing for the Lord wherever I go and worship Him the way that I worship Him, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. I was a sinner like everybody else, and like Paul said, he was the chiefest of sinners, and I kind of think that I was that way before I came to Christ, because as a young girl I got born again in a Baptist church, baptized, and it was real. And then I fell away because life got too hard, and I started looking at all the wrong places for love and affection and something to go on. And I ended up into a lot of things that I'm ashamed of. But God, in His wonderful love and mercy and grace, saved me. When I was at my lowest, I didn't want to live anymore because I could see what I had done. I could see what I was doing at that time, and I knew how bad all of that was. And so I chose not to live anymore. I thought that if I died, my daughter would be better off living with my mother and father raising her, because my father had stopped drinking, my mother wasn't working all the time, and they would be better parents for her than for me. And instead of dying, I took an overdose of drugs, and I was standing by a pool, and I was going to jump in. That was my plan, and I was going to drown because I couldn't swim. And instead of jumping in, the Holy Spirit reminded me of something I was taught in the Baptist church as a child, and that if I died in the rebellion that I was about to do, I was going to go to hell. And I didn't want to go to hell because I knew hell was real, and I knew it wasn't the place that I wanted any part of. And I cried out to God. When the drug didn't get strong enough for me to jump in, I could still remember what I was hearing from as a Baptist child, that you'll go to hell if you do this, you'll go to hell. And I cried out to God for the first time, feeling sorry for somebody else other than me. And I said, oh God, if it could just be real, if I could just really go back inside my mother's womb and be that tiny little embryo born again, I would live for you this time. I wouldn't go the way that I did. I'd live for you, Jesus, all the way. When I said that, He spoke to me. It wasn't an audible voice, but it was a still, small voice that I thank God I could hear so clearly. He said, it is real, and you are. And at that time, all of the drug that I had taken left my system. I was as normal, straight, we used to call it, as I am sitting here right now. I could think clearly. I felt everything normal around me, and I was happy. It was like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders, and I was literally born again. And God has done so many different wonderful things in my life that it would take me probably a week to tell you all of them in 52 years. And He's not through. That's the best part. You know, my husband died. It's a long story, but we got married, and we were together for 40 years, and it was wonderful. There was we weren't perfect, so there was, problem here and a problem there, but we got through them all because God was the head of our house, and He was the one we ran to when things went wrong. But when God took John, I didn't think I was going to be able to go on anymore. I thought life was over. I was hanging on to Jesus for everything I had. And John wanted me to visit my kids 1 year at a time. I have 3 children. He wanted me to go and stay with each one of them for a year and decide where to go. And I have 3 wonderful children, but they all have their own individual lives. And I knew it wasn't going to work, but I said, okay. So I stayed with my son and his family in California for a year. And it was wonderful, but it was time to go. And I was coming through Reynoldsburg to visit my sister and my wonderful niece, on the way to a family reunion down in Georgia. And when I got to their house, I was there for that Sunday, and I was able to come to church with them for the first time. And as I walked through the doors, now remember, I'm an empty shell because God took the body and left the rib hanging there. And I'm walking through the door, and I heard almost an audible voice say, "You're home." And he said to me, I'll never forget it, and I have 8 years of seeing it happen before my eyes. He said, "My body is alive here." And I thank God that he did that, because when he said that, he put me at peace. I said, okay, because that's what I need. I need you. I need every part of you and every part of my life, and I don't want anything else ever again.